Yes, thank you for joining us everyone at this webinar today. We have a really full agenda, so I'm going to keep things brief to start with. So this webinar is on sea level rise and coastal climate risks in Pakistan, and it's being held in the lead up to the COP26 climate negotiations, which are being held in November 2021. And what we're aiming to do is to showcase recent advances in research, as well as providing an opportunity to discuss how best to translate and embed this new research into policy and planning decisions. So this webinar is being co-hosted by the Water Environment Forum, Pakistan Meteorological Department and the UK Met Office in partnership with the International Centre for Integrated Mountain Development and supported through the Asia Regional Resilience to a Changing Climate programme, and is funded by the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So the discussions here will look at sea level rise impacts on coastal communities and ecosystems, and also opportunities for climate resilient development in the Indus Delta region. So part one will involve a series of talks on recent innovations in science and research, and part two, which will start around 3 p.m, will look at, it will be a panel discussion on embedding new evidence in policy and planning. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass over to our coordinating partners to give a brief introduction before passing over to the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to give kind of a more broader opening remarks. So I'll just pass over to Mr. Mohammed Riyaz to give a brief opening. Hello.
Good morning and afternoon to all my distinguished friends, colleagues. So it's really, I'm very thankful once again to the UK Met Office IC mode for such a very wonderful and very important seminar. This is the second seminar on this very important topic because the sea level rise, that is the most important. And you know that the sea level rise, which is definitely the impact of, one of the impact of the climate change. And Pakistan, since that's more than 1,100 kilometer coastline, which is badly affecting, we know that what's the importance of this sea level rise. That's why specifically I'm grateful for this, because earlier there was no such type of the working on sea level rise was carried out, but this from the last 7-8 months we are looking and specifically the PMD representatives that is working in a sea level rise this study. A lot of things that's come into, and we hope that we will further benefited from this workshop. But there is some more areas we need definitely in this project, the sea level rise, because it's some areas that's also the most important is the sea level data. The rise data that is at somewhere that is not regular, and some there is some gaps that's not provide us some the trend, exact trend, what's the trend is going on. But anyhow, from what we have seen that there is a rise 1.1 mm per year that is rise. So that's really a very destructive and very this is a that show indicate that's a focus area, because we have a Sindh Makran coast, that is some area that is very at sea level. Their height, their elevation is just very at the level of sea, and that is also inundating. And what's the impact of that sea level rise, that is very crucial, and that most of the area that specifically in Sindh, Thatha area, Badin, Nagar Park, Kartar Park, so that's mostly there is a threat for that may be inundated due to this. If this sea level is rising with this frequency, with this rain, definitely as per we are looking and seeing the climate impacts, and they are very drastic and not yet so hopeful work being done for that. because the glacier and the rise in temperature, specifically in those areas where the glacier is lying and snow melts, so that is area. Similarly, as I said, that the threat is quite the damaging factor of this is very huge, specifically in a Pakistan area. That's why we need such type of importance in this study, and so that we have to work on that. There is another very important area, because we know that the sea level, it is definitely the impact of climate change. And the climate, that is the impact of climate change, that is the impact of the emission of the gases to rise the temperature, and that's the first foremost important factor, that is the sea, that is the melt of the snow and the glaciers. So what we definitely need, that there may be some important work needed to be carried out. I want that some recommendation for specifically this form, that for COP26 may be endorsed with the following recommendation. Upcoming COP24 may agree with the government to adopt these strategies to minimize carbon and other aerosol emissions which are ensuing the rise in temperature, so that at the global level it may be mentioned near to pre-industrial level. Though it is a very difficult task, but we need to do some work for that. Major emitted countries to these pollutants may be asked to finance those countries for their rehabilitation which have been affecting due to their activities. Finances be provided to the badly affected country for deploying early warning system for monitoring the severe weather phenomena like tropical cyclones, storm surge, post inundations. Developing strong mechanism for stop activity which are damaging the normal atmospheric condition. And similarly, the most important, another most important factor is that there is need of the gauges, tide gauges, because if the data is available, if real time data is available, then you can set the trend. This is the most important, that for these challenges, to meet these challenges that is coming. So for that, there must be some important data, real-time data for this gauging. So that is the most. With this, because there is only 2 minutes, so I'm sorry for taking 2 minutes more. With this, I am once again grateful to all my colleagues, and I hope that from these experts, we will get some clue and some important message from the today workshop. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Riyaz. I think you have taken a little longer, but I will compensate by taking a little bit less than what I should have spoken. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me say good morning and good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this very timely webinar on sea level rise and coastal climate risks in Pakistan. Pakistan is the least contributor, we all know, to the climate change, but is the 5th worst affected country. Thus, it requires international attention and participation to address challenges like sea level rise with initiatives like the current one, today's initiative. I thank UK Met Office ARRCC project team to build scientific capacity of Pakistani institutions such as PMD and National Institute of Oceanography, Pakistan Navy, GCISE, and academia. Followed by this webinar, I believe science, policy, practice nexus will be further discussed with a focus on evidence-based decision-making and cover various areas that have been just mentioned by Dr. Riyaz. I encourage the Pakistani institutions to build a stronger partnership with scientific exchanges with UK Met Office and develop integrated approach to address the future challenges with community involvement through public-private partnership. Water Environment Forum Pakistan will continue to provide intellectual support, bringing all stakeholders on board for science-based solutions and policy formulation. I would appreciate if UK Met Office team could develop a comprehensive activity on coastal ecosystem restoration along with the partners that you see today. And ICIMOD may also play a very important role through its upstream and downstream connections. I would say thank you very much, and I leave it to the speakers to come in and speak more about it. So thank you. Over to you, the next speaker. I believe it says David.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mimon. Thank you. Distinguished guests and colleagues, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on sea level rise and coastal risks in Pakistan on behalf of the UK Met Office and the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office funded Asia Regional Resilience to a Changing Climate, or ARRCC programme. This is organised in joint collaboration with colleagues at ICIMOD, the Pakistan Meteorological Department and the Water Environment Forum for Pakistan, and I'd really like to express many thanks to the organisers for all their hard work in preparing for this event. And it's great, really great to see so many of you joining. I hope you're all safe and well in what have been very challenging times over the last 18 months also, and thanks for all your time to participate in this event. I'm David Corbelli. I'm the Programme Director of the ARRCC programme, and as some of you may know, the ARRCC programme has a focus on supporting regional collaboration and capacity development for weather and climate services across the South Asia region, improving forecasting capability and capacity, supporting collaboration for impact-based forecasting and collaboration on other timescales such as seasonal and climate change timescales, and indeed the development of a variety of pilot services or products across 4 focus countries: Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. One key project is our project on information for managing coastal climate risks, which has involved the development of new sea level rise projections for the South Asia region. And we're working on integrating this information into to make available to integrate into coastal risk assessments and planning decisions, etc. Dr. Riyaz and Mr. Mimon clearly set out the increasing risks and threats associated with sea level rise, and we agreed it would be a really timely opportunity to hold this webinar and showcase this recent research in collaboration with UK and Pakistan on sea level rise and coastal risks, but also to promote discussion on how this can be integrated, this new information can be, integrated into policy and planning. As mentioned by Jennifer and my other colleagues giving opening remarks, we have the Conference of Parties, COP26, later this year. Of course, it's vital that international, national, local policies and decisions to address climate change are informed by the best available evidence. So we've organised this event, as my colleague Jennifer set out in the introduction, to help promote the use of evidence on sea level rise and coastal risks in policy and decision making, and ensure we can get feedback on this research as well. So to achieve this, we've got 2 parts. We've got a series of short talks chaired by Dr. Riyaz, and then a second part will be the panel discussion, kindly chaired by Mr. Nizar Mimon from the Water Environment Forum. I'm also delighted that we've got Annabelle Jerry, Development Director at the British High Commission in Islamabad, under the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, to provide opening remarks for this webinar today. So once again, many thanks to all involved in the organisation. Thanks for your time and attendance, and wishing you a productive and enjoyable seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yes, we'll just pass over now to Annabelle Jerry, who is here to provide opening remarks. Annabelle is Development Director at the British High Commission Islamabad, part of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So I'll just pass over to you, Annabelle. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks so much, Jennifer. Can you see me? Because my laptop's packed in, so I'm on my phone. You can see me.
Yes, we can see you. Yep.
Yes, we can.
Sometimes the phone cuts off half the face. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone involved in organising today's events and for giving your time to attend today. I think we've already heard how important it is, this issue, resilience to coastal climate risk in Pakistan. And obviously, with a long area of 1,000 kilometres of coastline, no less, sea level rise is an acute threat, not only to vulnerable coastal communities, but also, you know, a mega city of Karachi. So this is highly relevant for us. As we've seen around the world, unfortunately, in the last few months, climate change disasters are becoming more frequent and intense everywhere. And Pakistan is often cited as being the 8th most vulnerable country to long-term climate risk. So this is serious, this is with us now, and we're seeing it. And relevant for today, coastal floods and cyclones are expected to become much more regular because sea levels are rising. So there's a real urgent adaptation challenge for Pakistan. The UK, as you'd expect, with hosting the COP26, is committed to bringing the world together around these topics, and specifically here in Pakistan, highly committed to supporting Pakistan on climate change. And I'm actually just literally back in now from having spent the whole morning out at a civil society event in the run-up to COP, where many of the issues were being looked at by a wide range of partners there. And it's going to be really important at COP that we do hear the voices of the most vulnerable as well, and coastal communities included. In terms of what we're doing here, Pakistan and the UK and Pakistan, we've had a long interest in building resilience, and we're continuing to do that, and we want to develop that further. We also are looking at 3 prioritised themes which the UK has prioritised for the COP, and they're all relevant to Pakistan and relevant to this discussion. So the first one is clean energy, where we're supporting Pakistan to develop credible plans to implement their ambitious 2030 renewable energy targets. The UK is also encouraging the private sector to engage, and one of the newer initiatives is supporting private sector companies to consider how they might commit to the race to zero, to net zero emissions targets, because this is not going to be an adequate response if it's just government to government. We need to involve business as well as civil society. Adaptation and resilience, highly relevant to this afternoon's discussion and a vital part of Pakistan's response to climate change. And we want to support across the resilience agenda, but particularly we're interested in having a closer focus now than we've had in the past on management of water. And this has got lots of elements to it, from the sort of glacial melt and the sort of resilience of those communities, through to some really quite complicated questions about how we use water, how water is used in Pakistan, and it's definitely not used in the most effective or efficient way at the moment. So working on that. And then the last area is climate finance. And what we're doing is providing increased support, development assistance using climate finance, but we're also supporting Pakistan to consider how climate finance instruments like bonds can be used to attract resources to the sector. And we're keen to help Pakistan to develop and fund a long-term strategy that will allow it to prosper in a future low emissions economy. And this requires a lot of action now to prepare. So that's sort of where we are with the priorities. Because you want to get on with your discussion, I just want to appreciate the efforts of the UK Met Office, the Pakistan Meteorological Department and ISMOD, all of whom have been working through the UK's Asia Regional Resilience to Climate Change programme, as we've heard, to strengthen the provision and uptake of weather and climate services across Pakistan. So thank you all. And I won't be able to stay for the whole discussion, but it looks really interesting, and I hope it's interesting and enjoyable for everyone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annabelle. Okay, so now I'm going to pass over to Mr. Mohammed Riyaz, who will chair the first part of this webinar. So yes, this will be a series of short talks, and yes, if presenters could please keep to timing with that as well. So over to you, Mr. Mohammed Riyaz.
Thank you, Jennifer. I will first request Dr. Shehbaz Mahmood from the Global Change Impact Study Center, Climate Profile and Major Climate Changes Related to Concern of Pakistan.
Dr. Riyaz, please welcome Dr. Kamruzzama Chaudhary Saab. He is founder of Pakistan Climate Change Policy.
Okay, he is, thank you, sir. Dr. Saab, are you present, sir? Dr. Kamar? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kamar Saab, can you please?
Sir, voice.
Yes,
Sir,
I am
voice.
present. Riyaz sir, thank you. Dr. Ghulam Sahab, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really, we are very great that you join us despite of you so many engagements and spare the time for us. And because you know that is your tree that you have built, that the climate issues and climate change in Pakistan, and now it's growing on and on. So we're really grateful, sir, that you have joined this today for that. So,
Thank you for such kind words.
yeah. Thank you, sir. And we always, Pakistan Meteorological Department, not only but the whole country, whenever there is an issue of the climate change, so you will be on the top of that topic, sir, because there is your great contribution in this area. That was the time when the people, they were joking, is there may be no issue, but you have started that from that time, and now it's true, and each and every person and all the world is accept this reality that definitely climate change is reality, and that's going to be worsened within unless if there is no such type of the adaptation made. Thank you, sir, for a very short time, and I will request once again to Dr. Shehbaz. Please go ahead, sir.
So thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. I am really honored to present before the distinguished personalities like Dr. Kamruzzama Chaudhary, Dr. Ghulam Rasool, Saad Mohammed Saab, and DG Mohammed Riyaz Saab himself. So, Assalamu alaikum and hi everybody. So I would be discussing the climate change projections over Pakistan past and projected, and I would start briefly with the climate profile of Pakistan for those who may not be well familiar with the diversity of the climate of Pakistan. And Pakistan's climate is primarily semi-arid to arid with huge diversity in temperature and precipitation. We have in summer seasons, we have temperatures which go as high as 40 degrees and stays above 40 degrees for a greater number of days, and the humidity stays from 25 to 50%. In the central to southern parts of the country, and for northern parts of the country, it stays around 15 degrees Celsius. And winter time temperatures in most parts of the countries is around 4 to 20 degrees Celsius, but in the northeast may fall as below as 50 degrees Celsius. So when we talk about precipitation, we have, as you all will be familiar, that we have two major seasons. One is monsoon and the other one is winter, and we receive around 60% of our rainfall during the monsoon season. However, in total, the average annual rainfall of Pakistan is around 250 millimeter, and it stays around there. Can you go to the next slide, please? So, when we talk about the major climate change related concerns of Pakistan, so it includes increased monsoon variability. As we know that we received much of our rainfall during monsoon season, so the changes in the monsoon pattern, the onset, and the availability of and the rainfall in different months. So its variability in this rainfall during the monsoon season, it is very crucial for our, especially for our crops. Similarly, the climate extreme events increased risk of climate extreme events. It's very quite evident from recent past. If we look at the extreme events of last 10 years and compare those with the previous decade, and so we can clearly see a great increase in the number of extreme events in the form of floods and especially heat waves. And we have also observed that during the recent past, the cyclonic activity in the Arabian Sea have also increased, and now we listen about more warming or more kind of signals of cyclones having the probability to hit the coastal areas of Pakistan. And even we this year and last few years we have also seen that even we have kind of an indication of that this may also make a landfall near Karachi. So these are the major risks. Then the water security, we know that under changing climate scenarios, our glaciers are melting, the IRS flows are under threat. So we have a water security issue, then we have a food security issue, energy security, and all related and associated other issues as well. And the sea level rise and the sea level increase in our delta regions. So these are the major challenges. Now I would briefly discuss some of the findings that we have. Our findings that we have published are in the publication process. Please, next slide. So we have compared the where we have compared the data of recent past years for the preceding period. So if we look at the graphs, so we can see that the annual temperature, if we look at the graph on the top left, top right, and bottom left corner, we can see, and I would try to focus on Sindh and Balochistan, which includes the coastal regions. We can see that in case of temperatures, the maximum and minimum temperatures in winter have shown increase in this region. Similar is the case with the annual temperatures, and in case of summertime temperature, the other provinces and regions show a decreasing trend. But if we look at the Balochistan and Sindh specifically, so we have either no or increasing trend. So in case of temperatures, so it clearly indicates that our coastal regions would be experiencing higher temperatures, and if we associate it with the Arabian Sea and the activity in the Arabian Sea, we can expect that the increasing temperatures over sea as well can enhance the activity in the Arabian Sea. So similarly, in case of precipitation, we have seen clear increase in the precipitation, which also indicates that in the future we would have more rains in Balochistan and Sindh, and so we can also associate with the rainfall over our coastal areas, coastal cities, including Karachi, and we may have more urban flooding events. And this increase, though we know that under the climate change scenarios, most moisture is available in the atmosphere, but this increase may have something to do with the convective and activity in the Arabian Sea. Next slide, please.
Dr. Saab, sorry to interrupt. We have only 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry. So here I have so since these are results, so it's taking more time. I try to be as brief as possible. So here I have just picked a graph on Karachi, and you can clearly see that increasing trend of rainfall. And if you look at 2002 onwards, you would see the peaks with higher magnitude of rainfall, which indicates that the rainfall amount is going to increase has increased in the recent part, and similar trend may repeat in future. Next slide, please. So I should briefly tell about the future projections over Pakistan. These are based on CMF5 GCMs, a suite of around 40 GCMs, and we have results shown here is on for RCPs. So if we look at the right side of the graph, by the end of 21st century, you would see that increase in temperature over Pakistan is higher than the global temperature by around 1 degree Celsius. And in case of RCP 8.5, the high-end scenario, it's around 5 degrees Celsius. So next slide, please. And now if we compare here we have compared the increase in temperature in the northern parts of Pakistan with the southern Pakistan, and we have seen that increase is higher in the northern than the southern parts. And if we compare it with the global temperature rise, so rise over Pakistan is higher even in northern and southern Pakistan than the global. Next, please. So here we have done a province-wise analysis. So as we move northwards toward Punjab, KP, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Kashmir region, we will see more warming. In fact, warming is higher than the Pakistan average. Next, please. So here we have this graph shows basically the future trends in climate extremes under RCP 4.5 and 8.5 scenarios.
Dr. Saab, only 1 minute that is granted to you as a token, please.
Sir, don't worry. I only need 1 minute. So if you look at the graph, the first column in each graph, it's 2050, 2020, second one is 2050s, and the third one is 2080s. You can see an increasing trend in the climate extremes. So we expect that in future, these climate extremes over Pakistan would increase, and same would be the case in our coastal regions. Next slide, please. Next. So here in this graph, this is the last slide, I hope. We have compared the hottest cities and the wettest cities in Pakistan. So the most vulnerable cities of Pakistan, and it's based on 14 GCMs. And we can see that in case of hottest cities, the number one is Hyderabad, though it's not a coastal city, but it's very close to Karachi, and then Jacobabad and so on. But in case of wettest cities, as we know that we receive most of rainfall in our monsoon region, so most of the cities lie in the monsoon belt of Pakistan. So next, please. Thank you very much, sir. These were my slides. I'm sorry if I've gone a bit.
No, thank you, Dr. Saab. You have finished it, ended it within due time, and we are grateful. You have given overview of the climate change, the impacts of the climate change, the rise in temperature, rain, and shown the trend in Pakistan. So now I will request second presenter, that Tariq Ibrahim for Pakistan Meteorological Department, and there's a topic coastal risk in Pakistan. Ibrahim, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Jenny, can you share my presentation? Thank you very much. My topic is coastal risk for Pakistan.
Next, have 8 minutes, please.
Yes. Next, please. As Pakistan is most vulnerable to natural disaster, we are frequently facing a natural disaster like tsunamis, cyclone, storm surges, coastal erosion, glacier melting, floods, environmental impacts, global climate change. Next, please. Today, my contents are temporal changes in extent of Ibrahim glacier, coastal erosion, and tsunami. Please, next. Glaciers are freshwater towers, and about 10% of the Earth's surface is covered by glacier ice caps and ice sheets. Ice sheets that took centuries to develop can vanish in just few years. For Pakistan perspective, Pakistan has approximately 7,253 known glaciers and covers at least 16,933 square kilometer area, which is approximately 2% of the country, producing more than 150 mf annually for rivers and irrigation systems. Pakistani glaciers are melting with the rise in temperature, especially lower elevation glaciers melting fast in Hindu Kush region. According to IPCC, the glacier melt in the Himalayas is projected to increase the flooding and affect water resources within the next decades. Ultimately, this impact on sea level rise. Next, please. Once glacier begin to break down, the glacier structure can cause increasingly fast melting and retreat. So a small study has been carried out for this purpose to assess the temporal and extent of Ibrahim Glacier. Ibrahim Glacier located in Pakistan's Karakoram Mountains of northern areas. The Ibrahim Glacier is the world's third largest glacier outside of the polar region. It is near about 63-kilometer long glacier. Next, please. For that purpose, I collected the data to analyze. The data I collected, the Landsat data, TM, ETM, and Ulster Dam data from 1992 to 2010. The purpose is to assess the temporal and spatial changes of Biafra Glacier of Pakistan, to generate classified map of exposed ice and cover, to find out change in glacier area and accumulation from 1992 to 2010. Next, please. The results shows it is observed that during study period, the Biafra Glacier melt has increased. Biafra Glacier has decreased in area by 9.7 square kilometer during the study period. The results are clearly indicating a significant trend towards decreasing ice cover. This study provides evidences for rapid change in glacier ice cover area. Due to rapid erosion of glacier, large volume of water has been reaching the oceans and raising their normal level. Next, please. The next coastal risk for Pakistan is the coastal erosion. Coastal erosion is an issue of concern in coastal management in Pakistan. Shoreline erosion is a natural coastal process with a number of contributing factors, including waves, long shores, current sediments supply, storm events, and sea level rise. For this purpose, GIS-based study for past 30 years, from 1972 to 2003, has been carried out to find out the positive to negative impacts on Sindh Delta coastline. Next, please. The area constitute Mirpur Sakro, Godabari, Keti Bandar, and these are the figures from 1972 Landsat image, which is digitized, and the other images are 87 and 2003. Next, please. The past 30-year study is observed that the coastline is changing from positive to negative impacts and presently receding by 4 to 10 meters per year. This is a huge impact of sea level rise. The beaches along Sindh coast are facing massive erosion due to development structures in coastal zone at some areas, and erosion was so strong that seawater had found its way to enter the residence of the local community, especially the areas which are under threat are Shah Bandar, Jati, Kharochan, and Keti Bandar, Godabari are the areas in Sindh facing fast erosion due to sea level rise. Next, please.
Tariq, you have 2 minutes, please.
Sir. Pakistan is, I have discussed, the other threat is tsunami. After a deadly tsunami in the world, even tsunami has huge potential to wash out the coast. We have a 2004 Indonesian tsunami, and in March 2011, Japan tsunami. The event has begun with a powerful earthquake. And the same source, we have Makran subduction zone, where in 1945 there is an earthquake, and after that there's a huge tsunami after that earthquake. And its epicenter was near Gwadar in Arabian Sea, generated a destructive tsunami in the Indian Ocean. More than 4,000 people were killed at that time. Next, please. For that purpose, tsunami hazard and vulnerability assessment along the coast of Pakistan, what we have did, we have simulated that event, the 1945 event, and the results of simulation clearly shows that the wave height along our coast is in different stations. So I took the Gwadar city, which is a port city of Pakistan and newly establishing. There is a 5.8 meter wave height. On that basis, I performed the inundation to find out the areas which are inundated in Gwadar city. So almost 11.98 kilometer of the area of Gwadar will inundate with a 5.8 meter wave height. So next, please. Yes, thank you very much. I think I'm in time. I'm in time.
Thank you, Tariq. You
Well,
also have ended your presentation within a due time, as likely Dr. Shehbaz. And now I will request third presenter, Dr. Ibrahim Ziasab from the National Institute of Oceanography. And he will talk about on sea level rise research by NIO. Dr. Ibrahim Saab, are you present, sir? Up. Dr. Saab, your mic, I think it's off. If there is some problem, I think, in a mic. If it is not clearing, so we'll go for last presentation. After that, you will be you present your after that. Now I think after clearing, so I will request to Benjamin Harrison, Met of his new sea level projection for Arabian Sea.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed Riyaz. Just wait for my slides to load up. So hello, everyone. My name's Ben Harrison. I'm a scientist at the Met Office. And today I'm going to be talking about sea level rise over the 21st century and beyond. And in the discussion session, and perhaps in the Q&A, we'll talk a bit about how that information can be used in policy and planning. So first, a bit of an introduction. As David Corbelli said, this work is part of the Asia Regional Resilience to a Changing Climate Programme. And one of the objectives is to improve the uptake and use of climate projections, so in our case, sea level projections. The reason you want to do that is we know the climate is changing, and so you know that historical data sets, to the extent that they're available, may not be representative of future risk. And so we think projections are the basis for long-term risk assessments. How we go about doing that, so we've done literature reviews of existing sources of information, also engagement activities such as through our training workshops and this event here. But then in parallel, we have a kind of scientific questions, which are, well, how different is Pakistan to the global average when it comes to sea level, both past trends and the future evolution? So we actually looked at sites all over the Arabian Sea. So in this slide, the top figure is for Karachi under a pathway with carbon dioxide that will continue to increase through the 21st century. And the figure below is for the Maldives under the same situation. And you can see at the central estimate, there is quite a big difference between those two locations within the Arabian Sea. So 0.46 meters at Karachi and 0.72 at Gan for the central estimate. But you'll notice for Karachi, there's quite a wide range due to some sort of local effects. So I guess the question then is, well, how do they compare to the global? So the yellow color is the local projection, so Karachi on this top figure, and the blue is global. So you can see that the projections at Karachi are actually lower than the global average, whereas at the Maldives, the reverse is true. I guess the question we saw there, that the sea level rise for Karachi over the 21st century, even under the high emission scenario, will be lower than the global average. But what about beyond the 21st century? And there was discussion earlier about mitigation measures to stop sea level rise. Well, I guess the question would be how long for those to take effect and for sea level rise to slow or even reverse. And so for that, we've looked at extended projections. So this time, this is for Gwadar in Balochistan. So under the highly stringent RCP 2.6, so that's carbon dioxide should be declining from 2020 onwards and reach zero by 2100. And you can see there, even under that scenario, you've got by 2300, you've got 0.85 meters with a range of 0.16 to 1.66. But you also notice that it's not really until the middle of the next century that things start to level off and slow down. So the point is, sea level rise will continue even under highly stringent mitigation scenarios, and so that shifts the focus onto how do you adjust for that risk in sort of planning guidance. And then if you look at the high emission scenario on the same time scale, the numbers are quite sobering. So at Guad, you're looking at a central estimate by 2300 would be 2.7 meters for 2300, but because of the uncertainties both at this time scale and the process involved, that could range between sort of 1 and 5 meters. So notice the different scales here. So these figures are available in the ARRCC sea level projections report, which we can share links to later. So then the next one is, well, what about a worst case? I'm often asked about this, and it depends a bit on what you're doing, what you consider to be a worst case. But the new IPC report has a low confidence scenario that includes the possibility of rapid breakup of the ice sheets. Oh, gone too fast. So the top and bottom are the scenarios with and without these ice sheet, without and with these ice sheet instability processes. And I guess the headline figure is that if you include ice sheet instability processes at Karachi, you could potentially see by 2100 between 0.5 to 1.57 meters, and then by 2150 the range is 0.84 to 4.81 meters, central estimate of 1.9 meters, so roughly just below 2 meters. So these are low confidence, which means you can't really assign probabilities to them, but they're for people that have a low risk appetite and are considering structures over the long term. And these slides will be available after the webinar for people that haven't caught them. So in summary, the Met Office projections and the IPC projections both have Pakistan to have lower sea level rise compared to the global average. And because sea level is rising, that will raise the return period for extreme events, and so interventions are required just to maintain the current level of risk. The long coast variations determined by large scale effects to do with groundwater extraction, but the differences are small. In Karachi, well, along the coast, there is a contribution from tectonics, which may or may not be of the same magnitude as current rates of sea level rise, but there isn't the observations data to confirm that one way or the other, and so investment in monitoring is required. The leading source of uncertainty is the West Antarctic ice sheet and what happens to that. And finally, the science is changing, and so it's important to review previous risk assessments in light of new science developments. And remember that if you've built something to a certain return period, that will have changed during the lifetime of the structure. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin Harrison, for your presentation, and you have shown the trend that's sea level rise in a Pakistan and coast area at certain point, Gwadar, Karachi, and other points. So they're definitely very variable. Now I will request once again to Dr. Ibrahim Ziyasab. Sir, तैयार है आपका presentation?
Yeah, hello, assalamualaikum. Good evening. Can you hear me?
आप बस थोड़ा सा जरा माइक के नजदीक आ जाएं.
Can you hear me?
हाँ, बिल्कुल जी.
Please speak a little loudly.
Slightly loudly.
I am showing the impact of sea level rise along the coast of Pakistan. In my presentation, you see that there is an impact which is researched by the NIO team in different projects and different studies, that there is an impact of sea level rise along the coast of Makran and Sindh both. Next slide. Next. In 2010 expedition in the deep sea research, we find that there is a shifting in the salinity of sea level Arabian Sea and also the surface temperature of Arabian Sea. Next slide. These are the points where we observe a CTT station in the Northern Arabian Sea. Next. This is a comparison between the 1995 cruises, which is known as the Nasir cruise, and the FAO cruise, which is conducted in 2010. And some of the data of Argo floats are also included in. And you see that there is a temperature increment in the deep sea, North Arabian Sea deep sea observation. Next. There is an obvious effect of sea level rise in the Arabian Sea. Next, some of the projects in some of the projects of NIO, we've observed water level data along the coast of Pakistan. Then we observe these are the values, and the average of these values are 2.5 millimeter per year. But this is not a continuous data of tide gauge. This is a pocket data which NIO observed along the coast of Pakistan. Next. This is a temporal image of different satellite images used. This finding shows that the sea surface temperature is also rising along the Arabian Sea. Next. In this graph, you see that there is an increment in the winter season also found in the Arabian Sea. This is a temperature graph, show that the high temperature in the winter season also. So it's a sign that the temperature in the Arabian Sea is also increasing temporarily. Next. 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 Hello. The red region is the Makran coast and the yellowish region is the Sindh coast. Next. I'm showing some of the project finding. Next. In Makran region, we have two projects. One of Pasni coastline analysis and another one about the Somyani coastal bay. This is a Pasni change in the Pasni coast. I'm showing the next slide. Next. Next. This is a project name. Some of the oceanographical stations established in Pasni region for finding the water level increment. You see in a synoptical view of satellite images that what are the changes occur in the region. Next. These are the two images of 2002 and 2011, and now the current image, which is required by the World View series. And you see that there is a massive erosion in the Shadikor area, which is a coastline region. Next. 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 You see that in the aerial view, you see that there is erosion in the Shadikor area. The eroded area is known as Shadikor, and this is the city urban settlement of Pasni city. And you see that as per the finding of NIO team, that as the erosion following the same trend, then the connecting road of the Pasni city is also eroded in the next 5 years. Next. Next. These are the instruments we use to establish a permanent station in the Pasni region for finding the water current observation and the water level observation to observe the profile current in the area. Next. These are the permanent stations, and this is the current pattern in the area, which shows that the current is toward the coastal region at that time. Next. In Somyani Bay also there is erosion in a dam city due to the water flushing in a low tide period, which is very much obvious that develop vortices in the area which causes a coastal erosion in a massive scale at the dam city. Next. These are the instrumentation which used to observe the water quality parameter, and then some of the water current instrument and water level recorders to which are deployed for the month to observe the water harmonic in the Bay Area and the current pattern in the area. Next. Next. These are the water profilers, and these are the observations pics. Next. This is a retrieval of instrument which is retrieved after the month observation, and you see that there are a lot of barnacle on that. And this is a graph which shows that in complete tidal cycle there is a wave action in the Bay Area. Next.
Dr. Saab, 2 minutes you have. Please.
Okay. Okay, sir. This is a dam city. You see the timeline of next. You see the timeline of erosion in the dam city. Next. There is a 152 meter erosion in the area. Same as in the Karachi, when we increases the breakwater in the Manoda region, then there is a cause of erosion and accretion along the coast of Karachi, which is also indicated that there is a change in the coast in Karachi. But there is a cumulative effect of land subsidence along the coast of Karachi and Somyani region also. Next. This is a timeline, Google timeline, to show the pattern of shifting coast shoreline. Next, next. This is a accretion area, accretion part, and some of the eroded part also indicated in a timeline. But there is an anthropogenic effect on the coast of Karachi, which causes accretion and erosion. But due to the water level increment and the pattern of current along the coast of Karachi, there is a possibility of accretion in future years. Next. This is the final part. Final image. Next. Now I'm moving toward the Indus Delta region, as we all discussed Indus Delta previously. Next. Just show you some of the effect in the Dabbo Creek area, which are my last slide, and then I'm discussing the way forward of NIO. Next, please. Next.
Dr. Saab, last minute for you.
Hello. Next, please. Yeah. Yeah. This is a Dabbo Creek area. Last slide, please. Last slide. This is an aerial view of the Shabanda area. You see that there is a protection bund which is developed by the locals, and this is a projection of tidal level in the area. They are protecting their villages by developing the bund type structure for protecting from high tide or spring tide period in the area. Now NIO is planning one of the NIO projects is approved in last year, in which NIO planning to establish a tidal station along the coast of Pakistan, and some of the observation also in planning to see the effect of sea level rise and seawater intrusion in the area of Indus Delta region and along the coast of Makran. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim Ziyasab, for your valuable information that you've given, and specifically the projects that are going on, because I am personally interested in the projects that's going on in an ocean, because you know that there is some lacking of the gauges, tide gauges, and some inside the sea climatic data. But anyhow, I have seen that you have a number of projects that is running by the IOC. That's really playable. So with this the first part of the webinar is going to end, and I really appreciate the four presenter, Dr. Shehbaz Mahmood, for their he given an overall view of the climate change that is going on in Pakistan, specifically rise in temperature and other concerned areas. Similarly, by Dr. Tariq Ibrahim, shown their hazards that due to the that's in a coast, specifically the tsunami, due to the sea level rise, cyclone, and it's the multi-hazard area, basically the Pakistan coast. That's he's shown that there is a number of hazards that's is going on in that areas and prone for that areas in which the sea level rise, that is a challenge for that. If the sea level rising going on with this rate, so definitely it will further instigate the storm surge, cyclone storm surge, and other inundations from this cyclone, and similarly from the tsunami and other hazards. Similarly, Dr. Ibrahim Zia, as I said, that shown the various projects that's going on there and what this what's there in inside that's going on, the data in different specs that is changing, and the sea likely erosion issues here working at that. Similarly, finally, I will really very good presentation that is by Benjamin Harrison from Met Office, sea level projection, and the good thing that was we seen that in his presentation that the sea level rise in a Pakistan coast is less as compared to the world, the global sea level rise. So with this is a short brief of these 1 hour presentations. So now the floor is with this. Once again, I am grateful and thankful to all presenters, are my colleagues, specifically Sir Dr. Kamruzaman Saab for his existence there, and definitely now the Nisar Memon Saab, he is waiting for their turn. So accordingly, I have act upon your instruction, and so with the due time, I am going to end my first the session. So with this, the floor is to the Miss Jennifer.
Shall I say thank you, Riyaz? In fact, you have managed it pretty well. Some of the things that people would like to answer are already there on the chat. Perhaps at the end of the meeting, you could take that up again. Ladies and gentlemen, the part 2 guidance in policy and planning, which will be followed by questions and answers from the. There will be four presenters, and they are going to speak 3 minutes each. And when all of the 4 speakers have spoken, then we'll take the 15 minutes for the question answer. So let me take this opportunity to invite Dr. Tariq Masood from Karachi University. Are you there, Dr. Tariq Masood? Dr. Tariq Masood, are you there? If not, can I invite Dr. Noor Mohammed from NIO? Dr. Noor Mohammed from the NIO will now take the floor for 3 minutes. Please, it is not a presentation, it is your views on the questions that were already sent to you. The question you'll be addressing is what sources of information are used in formulating policy responses to long-term sea level changes, and how robust are responses across different future sea level scenarios. Please, Dr. Noor Khan, floor is yours.
Sir, I think that global sea level rise will determine the order of magnitude of sea level, but the regional and local level change is some vary from the global level. So baseline studies are needed to identify the vulnerable regions process driving shoreline changes is a first, and I think it is an essential step. But I think there is a lack of information on local or regional level. You know that along the Indus Delta, there is a very lackage of the tidal data along the Indus along the Indus coast, Sindh coast, and I think there. I know that in 2000 and 2001, we conducted field surveys along the LBOD tidal link canal. But when now in 2021, we conducted and observed the tidal data at the same point, there was very difference in tidal amplitude near the Navy check post. So I think there is a need of continuous monitoring of tidal level along the Sindh coast. So it is more vulnerable. There are many reasons, maybe land subsidence, or maybe sea level rise are due to global warming. It is yet, I think it is yet question and not has been solved. Now NIO is working on this project, but I think we have to take it seriously, and we have to install their continuous observatories for tides, just like LBOD side and along the mouth of the main channel of Indus Delta. And also policy makers need to work with the science community to ensure the usability of the sea level projections and scientific understanding of the sea level to the government or other organization, and we have to our recommendation we have to send to the government for the future.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank
you, Dr. Noor Mohammed Khan. You have really brought some very important points, and among them is the lack of information, data, and there's a greater need for this. I think we have, I can see the list amongst us here. The PMD is there, and Altaf Sayal, Dr. Altaf Sayal is there. Perhaps they will later on come in the questions and will throw the light on the data also. Now I can see Dr. Tariq Masood Khan from Karachi University. I have seen his name there. Can you hear me, Dr. Tariq Masood Khan? Hello.
Sir, his mic is not working. Speaker.
Speaker is not working. So
yes, he has written in chats that he cannot open his mic. Might be Jenny can help him.
So if he can't open the mic, can he hear us? Well, I think Jenny cannot help in the mic. Jenny, I now call upon you to get Dr. Ali Tawqir Sheikh on the line. Now the floor will be given to Dr. Ali Tawqir for the next couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes. He will be talking about the question that was posed to him was, are coastal adaptation plans or investments, coastal monitoring that you mentioned also, contingent on the climate finance negotiations at COP26. Okay, there you are. Jenny, go ahead, please. Play Dr. Ali Tawqir Sheikh.
Thank you for giving me this unique opportunity to speak to you about a topic that's extremely important, blue carbon economy. This is about what role Indus Delta mangrove forest can and is playing in climate change mitigation. I looked at Indus Delta and the Arabian Sea basin as the starting point of South Asian ecosystems that culminate in Bay of Bengal. If we look at Mumbai and Karachi population put together, may in fact be much more than total population of Europe. In other words, this is an area which is extremely important, a hotbed, in fact, and it lives and livelihoods of millions of people will depend on how we treat with our forests. And our forests have been under siege for many decades. Mangrove forests, I mean, have been under siege for many decades from development, and they have been ignored. And also a little bit of focus that we have paid to our mangrove forests has either been in the context of forestry, of fisheries, or in coastal zone management, or a little bit for conservation or protection or reforestation of degraded mangrove forests. But in Pakistan's context, I know that Pakistan's delta and mangrove forests are challenged what I call by a triple jeopardy. This jeopardy is reduced flow of water downstream barrages. Therefore, very little water is left for the mangroves and the sea. And then the intrusion of seawater, losing thousands of hectares of land to the sea, and then because of tropical storm having increased salinity, making a lot of land unfit for livelihoods and agriculture. This, coupled with growing population and poverty, makes it a triple jeopardy. How can we think in modern terms, and is there something more than adaptation that mangroves can offer? Recent studies show that the absorptive or carbon absorptive capacity of mangroves can be as high as 7 times than the normal terrestrial forests. And the science for this is relatively simple. It is that the soils do not have oxygen, so carbon decomposes slowly. It can be stored for a much longer time. So from the carbon storage point of view, that's why it's a very valuable sink. And it has also an added advantage that salinity in blue carbon systems limits methane. Now, for the reasons of scarcity of time, allow me to make 1 or 2 propositions. Pakistan has more than 145 square kilometer area under forest, according to a survey that government of Pakistan did in 2020. It stores 21 million tons of organic carbon, which is equivalent to more than 76 million tons of CO2 equivalents. It's a very big quantity. If this could be stored, if this could be sequestered, it can help Pakistan transition towards a carbon neutral or net zero emissions economy with a greater speed. In terms of cents and dollars, using terrestrial forest prices of carbon credit of $3, this amount of carbon will amount to about $75 million. And if the carbon prices increase from $3 to $12 to $20 per ton, as it is estimated that the global carbon market will be in that band, in the range of $12 to $50 million, $12 to $20 per ton, this would mean that Pakistan may be able to fetch $300 to $500 million annually. Now, annually into number of years you can expect, for as long as you wish to trade carbon, maybe to 2040, 50 and beyond. So it can become a regular, credible source of revenue or income that the government and the authorities can plow back in the same region, because the forest for now is degraded. It needs replantation. It needs more density. It needs better care. But this will not be easy unless a baseline, a scientific credible baseline is established that Pakistan still does not have. Now, in terms of baselines for carbon emissions, under Kyoto Protocol, we have used 1990 baseline. Some countries subsequently picked 2005 as baseline. Pakistan picked any year, 2010 if you wish to, 2020 it picked. The ambition can be defined nationally. But once you have defined the ambition and you have a baseline, then we are ready for the marketplace. And that's an area where Pakistan requires science, and that's the area where Pakistan requires investments. And it will require 3 or 4 very simple actions. One is Pakistan will need to improve its mapping and monitoring of mangrove forests. We are not strong enough as yet. We'll need to revise our GHG inventory and second national communication as well as MDC. None of these 3 documents have taken mangroves as a forest, and they have not explored its mitigation potential that I have just highlighted. I think we need to reach out to private sector to make investments. I think we'll need a new ecosystem of institutions, new institutional arrangements between the federation and the provinces and various departments of the government of Sindh to have a mechanism in place that could oversee this for a longer period of time, at least the initial 5 to 10 years when the system is up and running and becomes robust. Now, what I presented to you, this is my final point, is very important for us to understand that blue carbon is not an IPCC figure. IPCC extends support only to wetlands, and mangroves are a wetland, and nobody can deny that. It is not included in NDC by most countries, including Pakistan, not under adaptation, not under mitigation. And it's not included in GHG inventories of many countries or their national communications. Pakistan's case, not in second communication, not in the first communication. And it is not included in the definition of forest or in any RED plus projects. So in other words, Lulu FC, land use change, and forestry need to be redefined in national books in order to undertake blue carbon economy that gives us an opportunity not only to enhance the living standards of the communities living there, but also to use it as a very credible carbon sink for a much longer period of time than we think. I want to thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end, I want to apologize that because of some other pressing engagement, I'm not able to join you physically and live. And I'm grateful to Dr. Ghulam Rasool and ICIMOD for providing me this opportunity to record my statement ahead of time. I thank you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Jenny. I think that was good. Dr. Ali Tauqir is the founding member of the Executive Committee of Water Environment Forum, and this is his pet subject, and I think he has done reasonable research on it, which will be something which I think this forum can take it further too. With these words, I was just checking up whether Dr. Tariq Mahmood's mic is fixed or no. I don't think we have any news from him. Therefore, now we move to Dr. Joseph Darren from the Met Office in UK. Joseph, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, thank you very much.
So, Joseph, let me take this opportunity to invite you for the next 3 or 4 minutes. The question to you was posed: what can be learned from approaches to using the sea level science in coastal climate risk management in other countries? Thank you. Over to you, Darren.
Thanks, Mr. Mamon, for the question, and it's really great to have the opportunity to join this webinar and panel discussion. And of course, coastal climate risks that we're discussing aren't unique to Pakistan, and we can learn and we can look to other countries, coastal countries around the world, including the UK, which is an island country, and we of course must also adapt to to sea level rise. So I just wanted to use the small time I have to provide an example from the UK that might be helpful. And the best example perhaps is the Thames Estuary 2100 project, which is designed to protect the City of London and the Thames Estuary region in the southeast UK out to the year 2100. The plan was published in 2012, developed over a number of years by the UK's Environment Agency, but also many other partners involved, including the Met Office. Now, crucially, the sea level information that's used in this plan draws on multiple sources of evidence. So from observations and monitoring of past sea level, model projections of future changes, and expert scientific knowledge as well. And also using tools to integrate this evidence, these multiple lines of evidence, within what is quite a complex decision-making context. So in particular, the plan uses a concept, an approach called adaptive decision pathways. Now, adaptive pathways consider a range of solutions, for example, maintaining existing infrastructure, raising defences, or ecosystem restoration. We've heard about mangroves restoration investment from previous contribution. And understanding the range of sea level rise for which each of these solutions would offer protection. And then a pathway using and combining these different solutions with increasing protection can then be considered into the future. But of course, key to this approach is the concept of being adaptive. So to follow a specific pathway, but then being able to move to a different pathway if the evidence shows this is needed and there are decision triggers which are crossed. So the current plan for London is to protect the city for a relative sea level rise. So that's a sea level rise off the coastline of about 90 centimetres or just under a metre by 2100. But it's adaptable to different rates of sea level rise up to 2.7 metres by 2100. And this higher figure is a sort of low confidence but high worst case scenario, if you like, that was updated based on a previous assessment of around 4 metres about a decade ago. But this was updated due to new evidence of a plausible physical upper limit for this century. So the plan recognises that there are lots of other factors as well that determine tidal flood risk in addition to sea level rise, and that these also change over time. So being adaptable and crucially monitoring these different factors, that's really critical. So with the Thames Estuary 2100 plan, there's also regular 5 and 10-year reviews built into the plan to review ongoing trends, wider evidence and expert knowledge and options. And the next major update is being prepared at the moment to be released next year. So I thought that'd be a nice example to show what's happening elsewhere. And with that, I'll pass back to the chair and thank you again.
Thank you, Joe. I think, have we lost Mr. Nisar Memon? Okay, I cannot see Mr. Nisar Memon. Potentially his connection may have dropped. So whilst he is just fixing that, I'll just try and see if is Dr. Tariq Masood Ali Khan, are you able to work your mic yet? And I don't think he has been able to, but he has written some comments in the chat. I also just wanted to highlight to speakers as well that there are some questions in the chat from your presentations, so please do look at the chat as well. So Tariq Masood Ali Khan has said that he has the suggestion that subsidence rates along Pakistan coast must be estimated, as a recent study has showed that high rates of sea level rise, which is about 3.6 millimetres per year at Karachi coast. And then following that as well, moreover, he has also worked on South Asian tidal and sea surface temperature data, including the Maldives and Bangladesh. So high sea level rise rates in these countries are because of local factors such as subsidence. So in Bangladesh, the subsidence rate in the Indus Delta is about 2 millimetres per year. And so therefore tectonic activity such as subsidence and uplifting of land along Pakistan must be studied. And so now coming to the strategies for managing the coastal risk, different strategies can be adopted to manage coastal flooding, inundation and coastal erosion. And some strategies are already being applied in Pakistan. And and he's just commented as well on the plantation of mangroves along the Sindh and Balochistan coast, which is
Jenny, I
ongoing.
had
Hello,
a problem
you're
with
back.
one connection, so I'm now on my mobile.
Okay, great to have you back.
I just saved something in my desktop, and so I thought I will be able to. Okay.
So I think now we're passing over to questions from the audience. So I'll hand back over to you, Mr. Memon.
Thank you. I think, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open, and please proceed with the question, because I was looking at some of the questions that were posed here, but right now I can't read the chat, because if I attempt the chat, I might be lost again. So I will ask if there is anybody who would like to ask a question, please go ahead. Anyone? Yes, I can see Sumaira. Sumaira, you have a question? No, her mic is also closed. Anyone else? I think there is Dr. Altaf, who is the expert on, in fact, on the delta, on the coastline, and I think there were so many questions about it. So I could invite any one of them. Sardar Safra Saab, do you have a question on the session that we had? No?
Yes, sir, yes.
Yes, okay, go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
My question is simple one from Dr. Ibrahim Zia, that in his presentation he said the sea surface temperature rise along Pakistan coast. So would Dr. Zia please tell me how much temperature rise you have noticed or you have observed during your experiment?
I think, Sardar Safra, this is a question related to the part one, and perhaps he may not be there right now. If there is a question related to this session, I will very much appreciate that. And I think we may have one or two. Joseph is around, and also Tariq Masood may be there. So let us see, Noor Muhammad Khan is around. If there's any question from them, I would appreciate that, because the other questions will have to be probably, Jennifer, I would suggest that since those were not addressed, perhaps those questions could be compiled and we seek answers from the speakers and then send it over by mail to them, because that will be only fair, because they attended, they posed the question, and therefore they should be responded to. And when the response is made, then I think that could become part of our deliberation for this event also. Is that okay with you, Jennifer?
Yes, that sounds okay. I have a question if no one else does.
Yes, please.
So what climate information is needed to help with ecosystem restoration or adaptation? And also, how can we embed that climate information into, for example, scenario planning? If anyone is able to comment on that, I'd be very interested to know.
Very, very important offer, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get it, because let's make use of this opportunity of this offer that has been made by the UK Met. And in fact, in general, I will say that there may be maybe a follow-on need for some of the members to get together and address some unanswered questions too. I think, Dr. Riyaz, are you there to respond to this kind of an offer that has been made? Because Ali Tawqir is not there. Otherwise, I think he would have probably responded. Anybody else?
And if not, I wonder whether Joe could maybe comment on something similar from Europe.
Yes. You have the floor.
Yeah, I think to give my perspective on that. So I think there is, this is the issue that we're grappling with, of trying to think about the long term. So long-term adaptation and the information that we have around sea level. So we know that trends are mostly positive, and the projections certainly are quite sobering, certainly for high emission scenarios. So the information is there, and it's about relating that to the very local scale to find out what information is needed to support these particular interventions. And so for ecosystem restoration, I think there's, in my view, there's a need for information across timescales. So the longer term context is important. So if we're looking at 1 or maybe possibly even higher than 1 meter sea level rise in a sort of worst case scenario by the end of the century, then are these investments made today, are they going to be robust over the longer term? But of course, on the nearer term, we're also thinking about short-term weather and climate events like tropical cyclones, surge events, and how that relates to other flooding and of course non-climate factors as well. So I think as climate scientists, people working in this space of providing climate information to support decision making, we try and isolate where the climate information can support, but it's in a very complex decision making environment. And so I think a couple of the panelists mentioned it when speaking, and earlier in the session in the opening remarks as well, as working together. So I think, you know, we're trying to do this through this webinar and dialogue, but actually you need to have a range of expertise, bringing disciplines together to be able to understand where that cross-section is of the information. And it is an issue, as Jenny said, in Europe, in the UK and elsewhere, and certainly we can look to neighbouring countries in South Asia as well. And everyone's dealing with it in different ways. But I think the solution is really to bring people together and have these kind of multidisciplinary teams working on it. And that includes climate information. So that's kind of my contribution to that.
Thank you, Joe. I think this is very well answered in the way that I thought myself that it is working together, not only for 3 minutes to 5 minutes, but this is just to get to know and to just create the appetite for the subject and also know what is required. Once we have established this as today, I think the next move should be that, as I said, that PMD, NIO, Karachi University, and Global Science Impact Climate Change, all of these institutions which are working together in Pakistan must come together with you and seek some of the solutions which are already there. Because I personally believe that there's no need to recreate things. What we already have, maybe in UK, maybe in Europe, maybe in America, we should pick that up, because these decision tables are there. And these are based on a lot of human and scientific work. It could be acquired, it could be used for Pakistan. So I think perhaps, Jenny, it seemed that one of the recommendation appears to be that in order to move forward, we must have a smaller working group meeting, which could be just those organizations that are present here and scientific one. And coming from the questions, I think you could invite those who are interested to join. And that will be the recommendation. And perhaps if that could be done before the COP26, I think then we will have a recommendation, not only like the one that Ali Tawqir has clearly drafted it out, but also the sum total of what we have discussed. Is that okay, Joe? Okay. So with these words, if there is anybody else who wish to offer any comment, any question, we still have 3 minutes to go. If not, I think
there was a question in.
Yes.
Jenny placed a question. I can read that out actually, because I know it's one that I can't answer. So it's from someone who was unable to attend but sent a question ahead of time, which was, is there government guidance for coastal developers about accounting for coastal flood risk in Pakistan? So I wonder if someone could speak to that.
Riyaz, anyone from PMD? Anyone from the Sindh government? Because coastal department, they do have it. And unfortunately, the advisor, Dr. Bakshal Ashari, left exactly at 3:30, seeking permission to go to another meeting, and therefore he cannot contribute. I would say that this particular, if from the knowledge that I have of the federal government and the provincial government, I don't think at this point in time there's a clearly laid down. I must say this, but please consider this as my understanding of the situation. But I think we will get answer to that by a small email being sent to these Sindh government people and the government of Pakistan representative, which is PMD, which is in fact Dr. Lashari, and you could copy me. And then I think we'll take it from there. Is that okay? All right. So I think with these words, I will say thank you very much. It has been, we did miss one presenter in this, which was Dr. Tariq Masood Khan, whose mic could not come up. And obviously, we could not help the mic. If only he could have brought in his mobile at this point in time, that could probably have helped, but nevertheless. So we missed him. Now I give back the floor to you, Jenny, so that you could invite the closing statement by the closing remarks by Mandira Shrestha. Okay, so over to you. And I will now not disconnect, but I will not be speaking right now. Okay, bye.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Mr. Mohammed Riyaz and Mr. Nisar Memon for chairing the sessions. Could I just ask that if anyone, oh yeah, I can see you now. If anyone has any questions, either for the speakers or for the panelists today, please either write them in this meeting chat, and they will still have access, hopefully, to this, and they can continue to answer your questions, or also you can send them to me, and I can pass on those questions, because it would be really good if we could continue this discussion after this webinar as well. Just to check, does anyone have any questions right now that they would like to ask before we close the webinar? I see there are a few maybe for the speak. Oh yes, Ben.
Oh, actually,
oh, Mr. Sarfaz, yeah.
Yes, you might have not read the question written by Dr. Tariq Masood Ali Khan. He's asking, yes, he's asked that according to him, he has not gone through any peer-reviewed study which had mentioned the subsidence rate for Karachi. If you've come across such studies, so then please share with him or with. I'm just speaking on his behalf.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thanks for pointing that out. Ben, did you just want to comment on that?
Okay.
I think that might have been directed.
Yes, Jenny. I've not seen any estimate with subsidence of Karachi either, but I have seen rates inferred from differences between satellite and tide gauge time series for a large group of sites. So that's the best I've seen, which is available from online, but I can direct Tariq Masood Ali Khan to that.
Okay, great, thank you. So yeah, I think we'll just kind of close the webinar now. So thank you to all the panelists who took their time today, and also the speakers as well. So I'm now going to pass over to Dr. Mandira, who will be providing closing remarks, and Dr. Mandira is from ISIMOD. So I'll just pass over to you, Mandira.
Yes, thank you very much, Jenny, and a very good afternoon and good morning to you all. I'm pleased, delighted for what I have heard today in this webinar. It's indeed been a very good learning exercise for me, a person from the mountains, I must say. But of course, the issues and the context still remains the same and challenging when we talk about climate change and its impacts, whether on sea level rise or the glaciers in the Himalayas or the Karakoram. So I think the discussions that we've had at both first part and second part has been quite enriching, and summaries have already been provided by the respective chairs of the session, but I just wanted to kind of draw your attention to some of the keywords that I was listening or hearing to when I was listening to these presentations and as well as the panel discussions. So what came out strong was definitely the need to look into enhancing science. I think that was also the need for more evidence was very much loud, and also the need for investments. So along with enhancing science, we do require investments. And it was also quite clear from the presentations that that there is lack of a dearth of information, data regarding sea level rise that continues. So in that case, definitely we require a lot of continuous monitoring, as has been highlighted, whether by sea level, these gauges that were talked about, tidal gauges, or other methods of monitoring. And the other words that I was hearing very much was hovered around partnerships. Yeah, so and that also in particular on public-private partnerships. So the engagement of the private sector was seen as an opportunity, and try to see how we reach out to the private sector to support these bigger efforts, government-led efforts, in terms of understanding these challenges and also coming up with some solutions. I think, so those were the things that I was coming out very clear. And also there was suggestions that, yes, because there's lack of information, lack of data, there's really this need to come up with some baseline assessments. So the baseline assessments were suggested in a couple presentations, whether we are talking about forests and carbon sink, or when we're talking about, local and regional level studies regarding sea level rise. So these were the things that I was hearing. So, but I thought I should share this, and also I appreciate what Dr. Nisar had to say or recommend is that it would be good to come up with a smaller working group in terms of really distilling some of the knowledge as well as the suggestions and the thoughts that have come through this webinar and other experiences from Pakistan that would send out a very clear message to the COP26. And I think that would be a nice follow-up to follow, Jenny, for as a recommendation and outcome from this particular webinar. But I think with that, I will go and just, thank a number of people that have been a part of this whole webinar in terms of not only designing it and handling it, but also delivering it. So first, I'd like to, of course, thank our very esteemed chairpersons, Mr. Riyaz Saab from PMD, DG PMD, as well as Mr. Nisar Menon. He's the head of the Water Environment Forum, and we've all heard from both of them, and I think they have handled the sessions excellently and on time. So thank you very much to both of you. And then for the first part of the session, on the part one, we had Dr. Shahbaz Mahmood and Dr. Tariq Ibrahim, Dr. Ibrahim Zia, and also Benjamin Harrison, who delivered very nice presentations and enhanced our knowledge about sea level rise and then some of the challenges of coastal risks in Pakistan. So thank you very much to all the presenters. I'd also like to thank the panelists, Dr. Tariq Masood, who tried to join and sent his inputs through the chat. We would have loved to hear more from you. Also, Dr. Noor Ahmed Kalhura for his insightful remarks regarding the regional and the local level needs for data and information. And to Dr. Ali Tawqeed Sheikh, I think that was a very interesting presentation on the mangroves and need to consider that further need for mapping exercises more. And also Dr. Joseph Daron from Met Office, who has very nicely given some examples of sea level rise and some of the experiences from that part of the world. So thank you very much to all the panelists. I'd also now like to thank in particular our, well, I call the chief guest who had to leave, of course, early. So let me try to remember her name. Can you help me in the Arabella? Miss Arabella from the head of the High Commission in Islamabad. She was there to give us her insights as well as enlighten us about the key priorities of for the region in Pakistan, in particular of FCDO and the support, the larger support for Pakistan in that aspect, in climate change as well as broader in climate change, but in particular also what we are discussing now. I'd like to also thank definitely the entire ARRC team led by Jose. He's been very instrumental in bringing the entire team together with the whole of the partnerships that we've had with ICIMOD, as well as for this particular webinar we've also had with PMD and also with the Water Environment Forum. So thank you very much, Joe, for your leadership in making this possible. And thank you also to Ben, who's been sharing his excellent learning and also insights on Pakistan sea level rise, and also enlightening us with the ARRC, the IPCC AR6, outcomes or the studies. I'd also like to thank, well, Jenny, of course, definitely. In fact, we all have to join our hands in thanking Jenny, who's been, like it was said by Dr. Nisar, very meticulously following up with the details in terms of ensuring that this particular event has, is held nicely and well. Definitely, I'd like to thank again Dr. Nisar Menon from Water Environment Forum for his leadership and for his support in enabling this particular event. Our partner, Pakistan Meteorological Department, Mr. Riyaz, I cannot thank you enough for being here for this whole entire period, as well as for supporting us with all the expertise that you bring in with your team and the presentations that we've heard today, and your very, very talented team from PMD who has shared their experience, whether it's Mr. Tariq or Mr. Sarfaraz from Karachi and other participants that has been part of this preparation for this event. And I think I'd also like to thank, from the ARRC office, I mean, the whole ARRC program, the Met Office, the whole leadership being taken by David Corbelli, who's the manager, the overall manager of the ARRC program, the Asia Regional Resilience to a Changing Climate, in supporting this particular activity. And now what I would like to also here really take time to thank is a very special person. And that is no else other than Dr. Ghulam Rasool. Yeah, Dr. Ghulam Rasool has been the driver of this whole program. He has actually was the one who raised this issue and the need for having such kind of engagement and the study that needs to be done for Pakistan, and to bring in that science and the experiences from the global knowledge to support these challenging issues in Pakistan. And he has also, through his very wide networks, reached out to all of you here actually in this particular webinar to be part of it, whether he's been calling you in person or even sending you emails. And he's really been dedicated in the cause in terms of the importance of the topic itself in terms of affecting the people of Pakistan's lives and livelihoods, particularly in the coastal region. So, and he's also my supervisor, so he's also been very, very good in terms of mentorship, and then also helping us really get here. Without whose support, I think this particular event would not have been possible, or would not even have been conceived. So let us all join in thanking Dr. Rasool for his excellent leadership in bringing this here. Yeah, thank you. And also, I'd like to thank all the special guests who are here. Dr. Chowdhury, who I have known him for a long time. He's been here and supporting this big cause also. So thank you also for your kind presence in terms of joining us today for this important event. And I think, yeah, so overall, I would like to thank all of you for being here, particularly all the participants who've spared your time to join us and patiently listen to all the presenters and also all the panelists, and also provided your questions and increased your the whole essence or the effectiveness of this webinar in terms of the points that we see that are emerging as a follow-up that can be done to make our voice stronger at COP26 in terms of sea level rise issues in Pakistan. So thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Before you go, Dr. Mandira Shrestha, you missed only one person. I think you so brilliantly summed up the entire 2-hour deliberation. And you did not miss anyone but one person, and you couldn't have done it. And therefore, let me take this opportunity to thank you for closing so beautifully. And now over to you for again. As a part of the team, we worked, and we are very delighted to be there. Of course, each of the word, I endorse what you said. And with these words, I'd say bye to everybody and thank you to everybody. And Jenny, back to you now.
Great. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you all have a nice rest of the day, and I hope that the discussions also continue. Beyond this webinar. I think I just froze a bit there, but hopefully it's okay. Yeah, so please do send me any questions that you have for any of the panelists and speakers. Thank you for everyone for joining, including speakers, panelists, chairs, and thank you to Dr. Rasool and Mandira and Joe for helping organise the webinar. So yeah, I think we'll close it there. I hope you all have a good rest of the day and look forward to COP26, which is coming up shortly now. Great, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.